My name is Rebecca Lee. I'm a medical student at the University of Montreal. It's a 5-year program, and right now what we're doing is a preparatory year for medicine, and we're basically doing the basics so that we can build upon it next year.
What courses have you taken so far?
We're taking anatomy, and in anatomy, we took neuroanatomy, head and neck anatomy, muscles, bones, the abdominal cavity, reproductive systems, and now we're doing histology, which is more microscopic. So we're looking at cells under the microscope and trying to identify the parts of the cells and the different types of cells.
How was your academic performance during high school?
I've always really liked school growing up, and I had the chance to have really good teachers. So I think my grades reflected that. But in high school, I never got any big award for academic excellence. So I guess I wasn't top of my class either.
What were some examples of extracurriculars that you have done?
In CJEP, what I did mainly was research at a lab at McGill. I did a neuroscience project, and it was a project with genetically modified worms.
What?
They were genetically modified to model certain diseases like Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, Huntington's disease. And I was trying different experiments on them to see what type of drugs could be used to improve the mobility of these worms. High school and CJEP, I did a lot of student union. I really liked participating in different committees at school. And uh, at some point, I also did a bit of student newspaper. So I wrote a bit for the student newspaper.
Which ones do you think help you the most with application process?
For medical school in Quebec,
Mhm.
for all the French schools, you actually don't need to submit a CV. So you don't really need any extracurricular. For McGill, it's actually 10% of your pre-interview score. So it's not that much. I mean, it could
Mm.
help, but it's marginal in the grand scheme of things. But I think it really made me realize my passion for science. And I think that's equally important. And I think these extracurriculars can reflect during interviews. So for medical school, what is important other than grades is how you perform at the interview.
Mm.
And if you've done more throughout your life, you're able to have things to talk about with the interviewer.
So you think school university in Quebec they look at more your grades rather than activities?
100% going to be the R score. And sometimes you have a test called the Casper test. And it's a test that lasts probably an hour or two.
Mhm.
And you are put in situations. So they'll give you examples of situations,
Mhm.
and you have to type or speak and say how you're going to react to the situation. For example, typical questions would be like, oh, you see a mom steal baby powder at the grocery store, and you're a manager at the store. What do you do? Do you call the police? Do you talk with the mother? Do you let her go?
Okay. So they're not really related to academic.
No, that part of that test is entirely non-academic. So a lot of healthcare related majors, so pharmacy, dentistry, physio, I believe, they asked for you to take the Casper test. And
Mm.
they combine that grade on the Casper test with your grades academically,
Mhm.
and then they choose which applicant to accept.
What inspires you to choose this major?
So I'm very interested in preventative medicine, and I think it's something I want to push forward with my patients, right? I believe, and research is also showing that prevention is often the best tactic for many diseases, right? And I think we need to change the culture in Western medicine in how we address prevention. And with an MD, I'll have more knowledge of everything to be able to talk to people about prevention.
When did you make this decision?
I knew I wanted to go into healthcare because my sister is a pharmacist and I knew I wanted to do something along those lines. My sister is 15 years older than me, so she was already a pharmacist by the time I entered high school.
Mm,
And I really wanted to have patient contact, and that is why I knew I wanted medicine or something related. Why I chose medicine specifically is because it gives me more time to decide what type of specialty I want to work in.
how does math help you in your major? Can you tell us one specific math concept that you used during studying?
In healthcare and in biology related majors, statistics is very, very important to learn.
Mm,
So, for example, when you're performing an experiment, you don't really know if the results you've gotten are based on luck. So,
mm,
for example, you roll a dice 3 times and you land on six every time. Does that mean that the dice is necessarily more prone to roll a six? So, you perform these statistics tests to tell you how likely it is that your experiment happened out of chance. And
mm,
usually in biology, what happens is that we conclude that an experiment is statistically significant when the chance of the results happening are less than 5% by pure
mm.
luck.
Have you learned this a little bit of statistic before going to university?
No, I haven't at school, but I did learn a bit about statistics when I did my project at McGill at the neuroscience lab.
Um, why is STEM important to you, or like, what are you doing important to you?
STEM is important for me because I prefer when something is more objective. So the reason why I chose to go into STEM versus a social science, obviously, I don't want to disparage social sciences. It's a very important field as well, but it's hard to make conclusions when you're in psychology, sociology, or in literature, right? There are fields that are very difficult to really understand, and I found that STEM was more concrete, and that's what I gravitated towards.
What are some obstacles that you have incurred while applying to this university?
Well, I'm really lucky that I went to Marinopolis, and at Marinopolis, we're a private institution. So we ended up probably having more resources than most people in Quebec. So, for example, we had peer tutoring when we didn't do well in the class, or we had academic advisors, right? And I know it's a privilege for me to have that most people didn't have, and it definitely helped me with the obstacles that I faced.
Mhm.
And other than that, because of Marinopolis, we had a lot of alumni who did end up going to medical school. I could contact them and talk to them about their process. So it helped me navigate the differences.
What are some other obstacles that you have incurred just while studying in general?
For me, I didn't have that much of an interest in, for example, linear algebra when I took it in CJEP. And it's really hard to focus when you don't really like a subject. But what I found to be helpful to overcome this was to talk to the teacher more about the applications of the subject in real life. So, for example, math can be a bit abstract at times, and that drove me away from it. And by talking to the teacher, I was able to see the usefulness of the material that we learn in class.
How do you like University of Montreal?
I do like it so far. It's only been 2 months, so I can't make any conclusive comments on it, but I do like the student life. People are really motivated, and I like my class because we are really able to help each other. So, because medical school in Canada is pass fail, there's not a lot of competition going on. Everyone shares their notes, everyone shares the flashcards that they make,
Mhm.
and it's a very collaborative environment that I enjoy.
And how about the ratio of girls and boys?
Yeah, so I I know a lot. At McGill, they have done a statistics on this, and in their class, it's 66% female and 33% male.
Ah,
From what I see in my class, it's probably around the same. So maybe even more, I'd say at the University of Montreal, it's 70-30
mhm.
and 70% women. Yeah. So we're a lot of girls in medicine.
Um, can you give some advices to girls interested in STEM?
I mean, I'm just gonna start with girls who want to go and pursue medicine.
Mhm.
So there's not one path towards medicine. And a lot of people, they do maybe nursing before going to medicine or another undergrad because they didn't get in on the first try. And that's okay. And I think that actually enhances the doctor that you're gonna become. So I don't think people should be discouraged by the application process if they get rejected.
Mhm.
And also, we're becoming the majority in medicine, and I believe that in the future we'll be able to unite to be stronger, right? So there's still major pay gap between men and women in medicine. So the Journal de Montréal actually reported recently that women made 100K less than men in medicine. But moving forward, I do believe that there can be changes made, and I'm very optimistic about that. And for non-medical related fields, girls are mostly the minority, right? For example, my friends pursuing engineering, they're the minority in their classes. My friends who are pursuing math are also the minority. But I don't think it should be that big of a deal. Being special isn't something wrong, right? I think it's a benefit that you have. And I don't think being the minority should discourage anyone from pursuing STEM. You should just pursue what you want to do.